G'day, legends. It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here. Before we get stuck into another great interview brought to you by Crannk.com and thatmetalstation.com, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and that way you can keep up to date with all the best music and interviews from all over the world. Hey, how you all going? It's Jai, that Aussie metal guy here with Crannk.com and with thatmetalstation.com. So no matter where you are in the world today, tonight, I'm getting to have another chat with Greg Schwan of Witnesses, who is due to release his EP, The Holy Water. Comes out 15th of July in just a couple of days. Will be released by the time this gets on the radio, but I really wanted to catch up with Greg and talk all about this EP. How have you been, my friend?
I am really well, man. It's great to be talking to you again. I was curious, I have an Australian singing on this EP. Is that why you wanted to chat?
Nah, man, I really enjoyed the chat last time. It's just coincidental that it's got an Aussie on there as well. So that's really cool, man. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so Gabbi's from Melbourne, I believe. I don't know her too well, but I believe she came stateside for school and stayed here. And when she was in New York, I first found her, and she sang on a couple parts on Witnesses 3. And I don't know, for whatever reason, Jai, I never kind of said like, oh, let's try her out for the metal stuff. I mean, she's great. Like, it fits so well with the ambient stuff that she sang on. But then last year, was it last year? Fuck, time flies.
It does. It was last year, I think.
It's terrifying how fast it goes. I was asked to contribute a song to an EP, to a compilation, and I said, well, this is a good opportunity to have some fun and do something different. And so I said, well, what if I asked her to do this, and I just did this super slow keyboard driven thing with the ethereal female vocals, and so we did Borgo Pass, and I was like, shit, man, this is kind of cool. so we did the second song. So we did Cloistered and Purfleet, and just made an EP out of it. Just dumb luck. Like, wasn't any big plan. Just was somebody asked me to contribute to something, and I said, well, this is a good time to experiment. And it kind of worked, I think.
Yep. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the themes that kind of influence you on this? Because I did read in the email that but I'd rather you tell me about the themes that kind of influence the making of this all.
Yeah, I mean, again, just happenstance. So the compilation that Borgo Pass was part of is on a small tape label called Euphoriatic, and the theme was monsters. And I was like, well, fuck, monster, I don't know. And I was like, well, I mean, Dracula's the coolest monster, right? And I, we're probably the same age. And I just, in the 90s, you had Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Coppola. And that was such a badass movie at the time. And I think for like people our age, like that's kind of one of the first time they put like a visual to that myth. Right. And so it was always cool and sexy and whatnot. And so I just went for that. But then, I wanted to do something different with it. And so if you read the lyrics closely, the way they describe the characters, the way they work with the characters is a little bit different to how you think about what Lucy and Mina typically represent in the lore. So yeah, it's just all fun and good luck, really, this whole thing.
Yeah, so tell me about that first track, Borgo Pass. What was it like making that one? And when you made that, you kind of, went from there and going, look, I've got to have another track to complement this one as well.
All I knew was that I wanted keyboards to be prominent, and I wanted to play slow as fuck. And so it's like 35 beats per minute, which is really it's a ball ache, as I think you guys might say, because it's, you play fast, like imperfections kind of get masked kind of easily, right?
Yeah.
But when you have like a whole note, 35, boom, like, that bass guitar and bass drum aren't locked in, and then you got multi tracks of guitars not locked in. It's a pain. So I knew I just wanted to do something really slow, like, another old reference for me is like, I'm not a big Funeral Doom guy, but I just remember when Shape of Despair first kind of came out, in my 20s, and just hearing Angels of Distress, that first album they did on Relapse. I think it wasn't their first album, but it was the first big album, if you want to put it that way. and I was like, man, I always wanted to do something like that, just super slow. Guitar's not doing all that, no one really doing that much, just really all about the atmosphere and the vibe. And so it just, I don't remember if sometimes you write a song and you do like 3 to 4 to 5 revisions and you cut a lot of things. I don't remember how Borgo Pass went on that score. I think it went pretty smoothly. And then I just kind of dug into my usual bag of tricks, a little bit of piano here, a little bit of nylon string guitar here, and just put it all together. And it it happened pretty fast. And I think, the other thing was, like, I didn't analyze it too much. I was like, this is going on a comp. I'm going to have fun for a change instead of making myself miserable. So from the writing to the production, I kind of just rolled with it. I kind of just, for fuck's sake, let myself have fun for once. God forbid, right? So that's really it. And I was just so happy with the result that I just said, let's do another one of these, at least one more. And then Cloistered and Purfleet happened, and that was a little bit different, right? Because if you look at the arrangement of that song, the heavy guitars don't come in for a minute. So there's that kind of like clean guitar, and I really, honestly, like, I would have liked to have dragged it out longer. Like, man, make them wait 12 minutes. I don't give a shit. Because that's fun, man. Like, make the listener like really work for it, because, like, you're either up for this shit or you're not. Like, if you want the big thrash riff to come in, like, right up, you got the wrong project. So, like, if I can drag it out, I'm gonna, I want to do that. So, I don't know, maybe it takes 3 to 4 or 5 minutes, but I just knew I wanted to do that. I wanted to really suspend things and wait for the climactic bits to come really later on that track. And that was really all that guided me in the writing and arranging process of that one.
Yeah, well, that's something I'm really enjoying with listening to your music and diving into your music. Like you said, it doesn't come at you all at once. It makes you kind of to work for it a bit. And I know this morning when I got up and I've like put the headphones on because everyone's still asleep, and I cranked this and there's fog in the air, man. It had this sound. It was kind of almost like a perfect accompaniment to me waking up and attacking this bloody cold ass day here.
That works. I love it. Yeah, man.
Did.
I mean, so I'm sure when you got out and started running, you had to switch to like Anthrax or something. Maybe when you're waking up.
Yeah, man. No, I'm really enjoying this release as I am with the last one. And I do got to ask, how did that all go with the vinyl and everything? Because when I spoke to you, you were releasing the 4 on vinyl and that. And we talked about with Gabbi having those tracks that she'd done in there, and you'd obviously like, man, I've got to keep working with this lady, and I'm kind of glad you did do in this release as well.
Yeah, exactly. So the vinyl release went well. I mean, like, it's, man, I think we talked about this before. Like, metal is certain genres, metal, hardcore, hip-hop, things like that, like, they're easier in a way, because you kind of know your like target audience, if you want to call it like that. Like, which outlets to send things to, which reviewers are going to give a shit, blah, blah, blah. Witnesses 1 through 4 are really difficult, because I don't know, who the fuck knows who's going to like latch onto it or say like, this is rubbish. What is this? And it's weird because what surprised me is that more metal people have been open to it than I ever would have expected. So don't get me wrong, I haven't sold out of those things. I didn't expect to quickly. But the important thing for me is that the people who have picked it up have really enjoyed it. And I think it landed in that regard. Like, the maybe we talked about this last time as well. Like, the mastering was so important. The mastering engineer who I worked with that on, we had a phone call, and we were talking about Brian Eno's Apollo. And I was like, that's the reference that I can give you for this. That's the perfect level, perfect EQ and balance, and clicked right away. And so I was like, this is the right person for this. And so I think it came out great. The people who I have been able to, get it into the hands of have really enjoyed it. But there's, I would say, Jai, that like you know, when it comes time for Witnesses 5 or whatever, I still haven't kind of cracked that nut of how do I best get this in front of people. It's tough, man. I don't know the answer.
Yeah, it's tough because there's so much bloody music out there kind of cutting through that white bloody noise and having people like, I'm constantly bashing my head. I'll be like talking about one band, then the next band. It's because I'm always listening to music and I'm up for jumping into new music. And when I heard your music, it was like, damn, this is so cool telling these stories, as I mentioned, through your musical soundscapes. I love being a musical journey person, you know what I mean? So when I get something like what you had, I'm happy to listen to it. But a lot of other people aren't willing to experiment and dive into new music. And I think they really should, because they're missing out on so much great music out there. It's just amazing how many great artists, musicians, albums, stories that can be told. It's just constantly every day for me. It's just an absolute joy to get up and talk to people like yourself about music and what's going on.
I mean, I'm with you, man. It's for me, it's hard. Like I I don't know how people like you do it. Like I follow some people on social media and whatnot who every day they're like, here's 5 new releases that are amazing. I'm like, how do you do that? But the point is spot on, right? Like I've been wondering if during COVID it's actually kind of poured gas on the fire, in the sense that since more people were home, more people have access to home recording equipment, there were less tours, if that even created even more great music to listen to. And I wonder if, you know, maybe if things get more normal and more touring happens, which starts to happen, which it seems like it's getting that way, if the release output will slow down. Because the past 2 years to me seems like, especially for metal, every week something's coming out where people are like, album of the year here, and I'm like, man, you said that last week.
Yeah, I'm a big lover of metal. I say that just about every release I listen to. I'm like, I love this one. I love this one. This one's great. This one's great. I'm more of a lover than a hater when it comes to music and people's visions. And you're right. Like these people that are on media like myself, I have trouble keeping up with it. I'm right in the bloody scene too. I can't keep up with every single release that's coming out. So it's impossible for the average listener to kind of get the music that sometimes they need to be listening to.
Totally agree. And I mean, despite what I said before, where it's easier to target when you're in like a very well-defined subgenre, even then, right? Like every time someone takes the time to write a thoughtful review of what I'm doing, or you say you want to talk to me, I'm like, that's a big deal to me. Because to this exact point, right? You could be writing about tens of other things. You can be talking to tens of other people. And so even if it's easier for me to say, okay, put this in front of these people, there's still a million other people doing that. And it's funny because I think one of the hardest things is with labels. Because I have never worked with a label, and I send my shit around the label sometimes, but I'm like, man, I don't know how you get through to these people, because they have every MFer like sending them, and the quality has got to be like from here to here, you know? So anyway, it's sort of a tangent, but like, I don't know how people do it.
Yeah, I understand it'd be a big thing as an artist trying to send your stuff off to the label, and then having this person in their fucking suit trying to decide whether they're going to release it. So just keep doing it in
their pajamas or something.
Exactly, you know what I mean? It's for me, I was looking over on Bandcamp, and it's really good to see. Like for me, I do talk about the Spotify. It's great to get those listens, everybody. I'm not hating on Spotify all the time. It's great to get those listens up, but it must be good for you when people jump over and do, like I mentioned last time, buy the vinyl. I noticed a heap of people have jumped over and actually already supporting you for the pre-release over on Bandcamp, and you know what I mean? Platforms like that are really good. You can jump over, pre-order that digital album for $2 US. You can't bloody go wrong. And this is a really, really great release. And that's another reason I love mediums like Bandcamp, because they do go to supporting artists like you, and you can kind of get an idea of who's supporting you as well.
You know what's wild, Jai, is that you know, when I when I get a Bandcamp purchase, or when anyone gets a Bandcamp purchase, you know, it'll tell you like how the person, if they can, found you. Like, oh, you know, this person was looking at Jai's collection and bought it by looking at Jai's collection.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is badass. Because the truth of the matter is, like, yeah, I get it, man. Like, I don't spend too many cycles hating on Spotify. Fuck it, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's it.
But the thing about Spotify though is that I just don't know, with the people who give me a few spins, I don't really know what happens to them. Do they click over to my Bandcamp? Do they stick around? Do they just say, this sucks and move on? And I've always kind of wanted to know, like, those few, those plays I get every month, like, what happens to those people? And I think what the beauty of something like Bandcamp is that they become your followers. They write those little micro reviews for you. And that stuff goes a long ass way.
It does, because they're actual people. It's not some
the people.
That's it. You know what
That's
I mean?
a number.
Just a regular
Yeah.
person like me and you bloody listen to an album, go, fuck, I dug it. And then for someone to take those couple of minutes is a hell of a lot, man, because we've all got busy lives. And sometimes to go actually click on something and go, I'm going to leave a review, because I'm hopeless at doing that, even leaving those little micro reviews. So those people doing it fucking rock.
They do. They really do. It makes your day, man. You like wake up and then like you get a little notification that someone said this album rules, and you're like, that's the best. That made my week. So yeah, man. I have my criticisms of Spotify, but like it's all good. Bandcamp's out there and it's doing great stuff for artists, and I love it.
Yeah, I do talk about, I have not talked about this before. I've just realized I've talked about platforms like Spotify and then, Bandcamp and that. How did, like, internet radio and radio stations, like, getting along and playing your music also? For me, it's a big part of what I do as well. I do internet radio with that metalstation.com and that. And for me, I love focusing on artists like yourself, not just the big bands. The other day I had a talk with Bjorn from Soilwork, and today I'm having a chat with you. For me, I'm all about supporting the scene from the grassroots, the ground, right up through the bottom, and then giving artists like yourself proper radio play and a platform to be able to talk about yourself, not only with my YouTube channel, but with the radio and the website and things like that.
I love radio. I mean, I'm dating myself again, but like, when someone's like, hey man, we're going to spin your track or stream your track. And you go on there and, I always go on there and I'm like, okay, shit, man, like this is a good opportunity for me, like to check out some new bands and like kind of hear the banter and all this stuff. And man, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like, because I've gone on there and pretty much every time someone says they're going to play my shit on their radio program and I tune in and I listen, I hear some other band where I'm like, oh man, what is that? And people like to say, oh, radio, you're at the mercy of whatever the DJ spins, but that's kind of the appeal of it. It is in a way to me, right? Because there's so much stuff I can go click on, but like, it's kind of cool to be like, all right, here's this program with this person curated a whole bunch of tracks that they want you to play. And 9 times out of 10, when I listen to those programs, some band comes on where I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I'm off to their Bandcamp and the rest is history, Exactly.
And radio stations, I'm like you, I'm definitely showing our age, but it was a medium that was always about the DJ supporting the scene. Like I know with us, we got to pay licensing. Everything we've attained properly, i.e. the artist, the label, or the PR and that. And it's all about supporting the scene the proper way. And yes, you are at the mercy of the DJ, but that's, like you said, part of the fun. You're always listening to new music. And I'm looking forward to getting on there and spinning these 3 tracks, because I can play a max 3 tracks, dude. It's it really is a great EP. And it's been such a pleasure to chat with you about this one, man.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad you're enjoying it, man, because it was, like we said at the top, man, it's a big experiment. Really had no idea. And like, it's cool when you do something fun and people react to it.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, man, like as an artist, you pour over every little detail and you make yourself sick, and you still can't control how people are going to respond to it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool to like take a different approach and just have some fun and then see what happens.
Yeah, well, I'm loving doom metal and atmospheric doom metal like yours. It seems like I've heard doom metal before, but only since the pandemic and doing what I'm doing now that I'm able to fully immerse myself into doom metal. And there's so many great doom metal bands. We were talking about metal in general, but you just take the doom metal and the atmospheric doom metal scene and in general with chucking the stoner metal bands, man, and it is like crazy at the moment. It must be encouraging too for yourself being in that scene.
Well, you know what's funny? I refuse to listen to him, and I'll explain why.
I understand.
Like,
I won't listen to interviewers.
Yeah, I can't, because like I'm not gonna go listen to Chemists and then like be subconsciously like, oh man, I gotta write some shit that sounds like that. Like when I'm writing Doom, I'm listening to like Napalm Death, because I know what'll happen. Like I'll hear these badass riffs and whatever. And like, what was the last one? The one from last year, Dream Unending. You know what I'm talking about with the Blue album?
Yeah,
It was like
that's done really well,
like,
dude.
Oh, like the dudes from Tomb Mold, I think, were the ones who did it or something shit like that. Man, everyone was like, this is the best album since the Peaceful shit. And I was like, well, I guess I can't listen to
it. Yeah, I know.
Because
I got to see them a couple of years ago. They were bloody unreal. They come down here to Australia New Dead Metal Fest, and Embry played with Brujeria, Lock Up, and then Napalm Death. 3 bands in a row. And I was chatting to, I can't remember who I chatted to. He's in Silanos from Dimmu Bulgaria's. He plays in Insidious Disease, and he was saying, Embry said he's never doing that again. He said that was fucking fun, but that was the most taxing thing, playing 3 shows in a one. But it was an absolute joy to catch that man cranking out.
Dude, I saw Napalm when I was in my 20s, and it was the fastest band I'd ever seen. I was like, the set's over? What happened? Oh, we just played 20 songs.
Yeah, we just played 20 songs. Fucking unreal, though. No, it's really good to see all these bands, these shows, everything going again. Greg, look, this has been an absolute pleasure, man. I could talk music with you all day. Do you have any last words, shout outs, thank yous you'd like to add in there, my friend?
No, thank you to you. I really appreciate it. It's awesome to be on it again, chat with you. Really fun. Thanks for supporting me. It means a lot.
Always, mate. Absolute pleasure. You have a great day.
All right.
Bye.